No part of this recording may be used to train generative AI to create new so-called content. Write your own goddamn scripts, do your own interviews, you lazy, lazy hacks. Welcome to Season 3 of Fandom X Archive Podcast. That's right, we are back. Earlier this week, I sat down to talk with Larry Musser, the Canadian actor who us X-Files fans know best for his portrayal of four very different characters in four very different X-Files episodes. So without further ado, here's me and Larry talking about life, the universe, and everything. Welcome, listeners. I have with me today a very, very special guest. He is a veteran actor of movies, TV, and theater, but our listeners know him best as four different characters in four different episodes of The X-Files. It's my pleasure to introduce Mr. Larry Musser. Larry, how are you doing today?
Well, pretty good, Danara, and thanks for asking. Yeah, I've had quite a background in the film and TV world, and now that I'm a bit longer in the tooth, I don't do quite as much of that, but I still carry on doing a lot of live theater. That's been my mainstay now is live theater. I have to travel in a little bit using a ferry to go to Vancouver, so I don't pursue those opportunities or possibilities quite like I did before I moved up here. On the Sunshine Coast. That's a ferry ride and a bit north of Vancouver.
A bit north of Vancouver. So
Mm,
I did a little Googling, a little research, and
yep.
I read that, now correct me if it's wrong, but I read that you used to be a radio disc jockey.
Yeah.
So if tell me if that is true, and also tell me how you went from being a radio disc jockey to being an actor.
Okay. Opening statement, true. And that goes back quite a ways now, but I used to love being a radio disc jockey. That it was in a time where you queued up vinyl and you cross-faded spinning records on three turntables, much like the club DJs do nowadays, only with a different kind of format. You had to, it wasn't just dance beats you had to mix, you had to really mix the styles and hits of the day and add some, current events about it. And it was a whole different kind of scene then. Well, when you listen to the radio now, and I went in there and checked it out. It's pretty much all on computer, and they've got a laptop there, and they're speaking into the laptop like you and I are right now.
Yeah.
I mean I'm speaking into my laptop, and and then they're punching something up, and I think the music is often pre-selected now. I can't say that 100% every station, but when I was a DJ, we picked our own music and we
Oh.
did a show blending certain types of music and playing songs that we wanted to say something about. Unless it was a straight MOR, maybe you don't use MOR anymore. That's middle of the road. Those stations used to play the records, not talk about the music, and then they go right to news. Well, I was into more of a station that was a music station, like album-oriented rock and progressive rock radio stations, all those sorts of things. So yes, I did that for a few years actually, and that's kind of how I got into television, and then from television got into acting for film and television. So that's the summary of it anyway, Danera. I don't know if you want to hear any more detail on that, but yeah, that's how I got into it.
I mean, we're all for the details here.
Okay.
As detailed as, I mean, this is like you're telling a story here, and I just think it's so fascinating. First
Hmm.
of all, so you said that you started as a radio disc jockey, and then you started working
Yeah.
at television and then acting in television. So what did you do on television before you became an actor on television?
Well, again, it was music related. There was
Mhm.
a program that presented live acts of the day with kind of a focus on local upcoming musicians. So I used to be a host for that. You know, I'd introduce them. I would do your job. I'd be talking to all these musicians that were coming up and asking them about their lives and how they got going and how they managed to find the notch that they're in now musically. And so it was very interesting to me. So then the radio station, or not that, I'm sorry, the television station said, "We have this commercial that we're doing. Will you audition for the commercial?" So I said, "Sure, yeah, that sounds fun." And also, my wife was a commercial writer for an ad agency. I met her in radio, and she was doing these ads, and she got me to do some things too. And then she pitched this thing to me that was a film, a half hour. I guess you'd call it an educational film for PBS, right? And there was this character in it who was an ad agency guy, and she said, "You know, you just have to be yourself. You don't really have to act. And do you want to try out for this?" And I went, "Well, why not?" And so I got that part, right? And then that really, really interested me in that acting world. So I found out everything I could about it. I took workshops. I did these little, more of these little educational and sort of industrial films, you know, just to gain an understanding of how the process works and to get better at it, to try and actually become an actor, right? And
Right.
I took one in theater as well, but you know what? Back then, the difference in pay was huge. You know, theater, while it's a very noble art, doesn't pay what film acting does. So I just kind of directed myself more to the film side of things. And plus, you know, I was already getting up into my 30s before I even got an opportunity at this. So when you're at that age, you figure, well, I got to earn a living, right? I
Right.
love this theater acting, but let's do something where I get paid a little more, and maybe maybe I can make a living at it. See, so yeah, I went and I just tried out for everything and sort of slowly built a resume, and then moved from Edmonton to Vancouver. Vancouver was a really burgeoning film center. It was just starting to come into its own, and I started to get work right away. You know, so I was off. I got an agent immediately, one of the best agents in Vancouver, and she put me forward for all kinds of things. And lo and behold, one of them was the X Files. No, but you know, I did lots of before I ever got to the X Files. I did lots of what we used to call made for TV movies. You know what those are?
Mhm. Yes,
They're,
yes.
they're basically a feature film, but on a smaller scale than the big movie house made features. But those were a real bread and butter work for me, and I used to get good parts in those. So I thought, okay, this is what I want to do. And then this show came on called X Files, and I went, geez, that's a really good show. I hope I get a shot at doing something there. And you know, I auditioned a few times before they finally picked me for the Cop in Die Handy for Let's. It was
Right.
called a witchcraftery thing, you know.
Right.
And they liked my work, so they said, we'll have you back for something else. And I went, oh, okay. And I managed to do these other characters, and each season I did a different character. And then they moved back to LA, so that ended. But I've always maintained a connection with X Files. The people were so great, the writer, directors, everybody. So here we are, and I know you know me through X Files because did
Right.
we meet in Chicago or Minneapolis?
Minneapolis.
You didn't go to the Chicago one.
Nope. I went
Oh,
to, yeah, it was Minneapolis in 2023.
right, just a couple of years ago.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. So there you go. That's the short, abridged version of how I got to into X-Files, right?
Into X-Files. So, were you a fan of the show before you started auditioning?
Yes, I was. I was working as an actor in Vancouver, doing various other jobs, and I saw this show come on television in 1993, and it really hooked me. I thought this is interesting. This reminds me of the old Night Stalker series that was on in before I was even an actor, which I loved. And I said, but only this seems even more. It's got more scope than Night Stalker. And so I right away was tuned right into it. So I asked my agent to let me know immediately if anything came up that she thought I could go and read for. And I read for a few, and they always told my agent, "Yeah, we like him. We'll find something for him." And eventually they did. And
And eventually they did find you four different roles that you were so like perfect for.
oh,
Um,
well, thanks.
which kind of leads me to the next question. All the four characters in Tihan Feletz,
Yeah,
and then Jose Chang's from Outer Space,
yeah,
Unrequited, and Chinga, they all have something in common. All four of them, they're either in law enforcement or one of them is a former military,
yeah.
but they couldn't be more different as people. And
No.
I just, when I was watching the show like the first time, or maybe like on my second rewatch years ago, I didn't even notice that it was the same actor that played all these different characters
Oh,
because, you're just watching sort of for the plot. And, I kind of didn't notice all the details until like, I would go back and rewatch with more, more rigorously. And it's just because all the characters that you play are so different and they have such different auras and the way that you interact and play off of, the leads and the other actors, other characters, you just have such vastly different chemistry with them depending on the character that you're playing. So I don't know, it's such a pretentious question to ask you, but like, what was your preparation for playing these different characters?
well, first of all, let me say you've paid me about the greatest compliment you can pay an actor when you say you didn't realize it was the same actor playing those roles right away. So that's a feather in my cap. Thank you for that. Uh, Now, yes, the characters are all different. So, the first one was as you know, was quite a bit a smaller part. He wasn't in a lot of those shows. However, I still wanted to do the best possible characterization I could. So I would usually, okay, he was supposed to be a cop, a sheriff in a town that was um, let's say plagued by strange witchcraftery. So I thought, now, what kind of cop would I even research to do that kind of role? And I just looked at all those, your basic sheriffs that are non-believer type guys.
Right.
They always want to question everything, and I used that as the basis. Like, this isn't really going on, and he was. I played him as a guy who wasn't terribly educated and well read on such things. So it was Mulder who was telling me all this stuff, and I was not believing him. That's how I played it. Now, whereas Detective Manners in Jose Chung, that's a whole different guy. He is an explosive guy, and he swears a lot, and he challenges everything. That's a different side of the coin, right?
Right.
Instead of going, "Oh, you're telling me this," it's like, "What do you mean by this?" Right? This is nonsense. Don't go telling. And instead of the swear words, as you know, they got me to say bleep and blank and all that stuff. Which, when I went in and I just said, Now, these swear words, you want me to actually say the swear words so that my mouth says them and you put that in? They went, no, no, no. We want you to say that. I said, okay. And I was pretty dubious about that, But when I saw the finished product, I said, well, that guy becomes funny now. So that worked because in that particular episode, which is different realities, different dimensions, and all of that, that was perfect the way they got me to do it that way because it had a level of absurdity and it also had a level of mystery, and so somewhere in between that was this guy manners questioning everything, and then at the end he goes, holy bleep, like this is really going on. Right. So a whole different preparation. I had to take him, okay, let's say, although he was energetic, I had to take him as less serious. You know what I mean
Right.
by that?
Yes. Yeah.
Serious, serious in trying to do his job. Saying, "Oh, you really bleeped up that," but also within myself, I said, "Well, this guy can't be all out serious because otherwise, how the hell would he uh, carry off saying a thing like, yeah, that's a bleeping dead alien body if I ever saw one." See, I mean, you got to be a bit strange to carry that off. And now, what? Detective Manners. No, I mean, sorry, Denny Markham. So, he's an ex-Vietnam vet and I looked at a lot of those Vietnam vet guys and the things they said when they were well, when they came back to the US after putting their lives on the line, and the US kind of turned their backs on them and didn't even give them a job. And so he was a bitter, bitter guy. And then he sees this pal of his who can disappear. And he goes, okay, well, I'm not going to call any attention to this guy because this guy could be very helpful. So when they catch me and question me, I tell them pretty much straight up, well, yeah, this guy can do this, and too bad, eh? Because he can get even with all you buggers who did what you did to us.
Right.
Well, that was a whole different character. See, a guy with a big chip on his shoulder, and he had his own arsenal. He would have gladly fired rockets at. He'd been like some of these wackos that today that blow stuff up, right?
Right.
Yeah,
Well, he was very menacing. I mean, you were very menacing in that role because there, few sort of episodic characters that sort of stick with you that, are not necessarily villains or monsters, but
yeah.
still sort of scare you. And Danny was definitely one of those characters for me.
Okay, well, thanks for that because that's kind of what I was shooting for. And when that general tries to beat it out of me, I know enough about this guy who can disappear to say, "Go ahead, knock me around all you want, but you're not going to stop this guy, and he'll
Right.
get you whenever he wants," which he did do, right? And then at the very end, they finally get him, and he rematerializes into who he is,
It's one of
right?
the sadder endings.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
because he was another guy who got really badly treated by generals and was getting even, basically. Now, I don't necessarily agree with his methods, but I do understand his where he's coming from.
Definitely. And
Yeah,
that, if I'll just interrupt you just quickly, I just want to go on record to say that's one of my favorite episodes. And I think it's so criminally underrated because it touches on such important subjects. And I
yeah,
think The X-Files was the perfect show to delve into those subjects. And I think
yeah,
the show handled those subjects very, very well with such empathy for all the people involved, all
yeah.
the victims and all the families, and so okay, the floor is yours. I'll stop talking now.
No, that's good to hear that because that's you're exactly right, and I felt a real kind of sympathy for all those Vietnam vets that they have to fight to even get the benefits that they're due from having having gone over there in that horrible war. everybody knew was unwinnable, and just they were being sent into a meat grinder. No wonder a lot of them took drugs just to deal with it, right?
Right.
And yeah, I felt bad for them. So I was trying to be a spokesman for some of them, like
Right.
we're not too happy with the way you, the government, that is. I mean, Mulder and Scully are government, right? In the
Right.
eyes of a Vietnam vet, they'd be government. So I wanted to let them know that there's a lot of guys out there that aren't too happy with how they were treated when they got home from fighting that disgusting war that you government people started,
Right.
right?
Right.
Yeah. And we're dealing with that right now. And I like your comments that you put on some of the platforms about what's going on in Ukraine and Gaza. I mean,
Mm.
that is beyond disgusting,
It
and
is.
yet it's not. It's being allowed to continue, right?
That
And
that is sort of the this part that saddens and scares me the most is that knowing what we know, you know, all the people that have gone through all these horrors and we still allow this to happen.
yeah,
And it just keeps on going. We say never again, never again. And we've learned from our mistakes. And it's like every generation keeps saying that while also allowing another atrocity or another tragedy to happen. So,
absolutely right. Yeah, yeah.
right.
Okay, so yeah, I know we've managed to find the seriousness in that
Yes,
topic,
we
and
did. We did. I mean, because Larry and we're friends on Facebook, and
yeah,
we sometimes, chat about these sort of, timely issues. I put some
hmm
stuff on my platform, like sharing stories, and we sometimes end up talking about this. So, we were bound to head into that territory uh,
sure.
during the interview. But last but not least, Captain Jack from Chinga.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Okay, now there's now that you see that was okay. I'm not going to say that I wanted him to be like a dumb cop, but another guy that's not too aware. Let's just say that, because uh, he's not too aware, but he's also a bit crafty.
Mhm.
So there was a fine line between that, between him, him not really knowing what she meant by what's going on, but at the same time wanting her. I'm talking about Scully, right?
Right.
To help him. See, and so they're the two that kind of lead that whole investigation into this. And I think he gets sharper as time goes on, right? I mean,
Definitely.
he goes back and talks to presumably somebody he's had relations with earlier who's really mad at him, that woman who ends up slicing herself with a broken record, right? And tries to get some information out of her. And she doesn't basically even want to talk to him, but she talks to Scully and manages to uncover a few details about the happenings. But that character was a lot of fun to play because I could just I could just play him like a slightly goofy guy, but at the same time wanted to get the job done, right? But he was goofy. He was definitely goofy, ripping that
He,
lobster apart, and you know,
he,
no,
yeah. No, go ahead.
no, and then but turned very serious when they break into that house, and he's the one who takes his gun out. Scully doesn't take her gun out, but he's got an officer down with his head smashed in, and of course he's
Right.
going to have his gun out, right? But she's the one who puts his arm down and throws the doll into the microwave. He would have, I don't know, I don't think he would have shot the little girl, but he would have tried to shoot the doll, right? He realized all of a sudden it dawned on him, oh, this doll thing is actually alive.
Right.
So I gotta put some bullets in it, you know. But that little girl, I'm still in touch with her too. She lives in Alberta now, and she's a very good person. Yeah.
I met her. and her mother at the X-Files Museum in 2022.
Okay, good.
So
Yeah, they went to that. Yeah,
yeah, she it was Nicholas Lee and Enigma,
yeah,
the guy, the performer with all the tattoos, and it
yeah.
was her, and she brought her own dolly with her, so
Oh, she
was had
did.
some fun chatting with her. Yeah, she's very, very sweet.
Yeah, she
Uh,
is. Yeah,
yeah.
Jen is her name.
Yes, yes, exactly.
Yeah,
I mean, Jack is a fan favorite. I think if I poll my listeners and my friends, who's your favorite character played by Larry Musser, I think the majority will answer Jack from Chinga because he's just such a he's just such a comforting character.
yeah,
And I don't know like how much of that was, I mean, I think it's a great combination of like great writing and great acting because like you said he's goofy but at the same time he's so dependable and so comforting
yeah,
like
yeah,
it's the kind of guy that you want to have your back.
yeah.
You want to have him in your corner. So I think he's also one of my favorite characters.
Oh,
I,
good.
I would have loved to have seen a spin-off with just Jack trying to keep the order in this small town where all this crazy stuff is happening. Sort of like a, I don't know, New England type of Twin Peaks, maybe not as trippy,
Yeah,
but to just like
that would have been good.
focus on this guy and, whether it's a haunted doll or something else,
Yeah,
that would have been fun.
yeah. At the end of that episode, of course, the doll is still not dead.
Right,
It survived the microwave, so that
right.
could certainly, much like Chucky, that could keep coming back and wreaking havoc.
Exactly.
Yes, and maybe other things could go on. That might make for an interesting ongoing character. All right. Yeah.
Right.
Well, I'm glad you liked him. I have to say that even though that show was written by Stephen King, and of course adapted by Chris Carter, as he
Hmm.
always did. But Stephen King wrote it, and and came out when the Olympics were on, and outdrew the Olympics. It's the only show that
Right.
knocked the Olympics out of number one, and so it had a huge audience. And yet it seemed like I'm talking about the people I know in my circle back then. That was 1997 or 98, right? Back in there.
Right.
They all said, "Well, I didn't really care for that one too much." They basically said it's too much like the killer doll in the movies, and I didn't want to argue with them. I said, "Oh, that's your opinion. Okay, you're the viewer. You say whatever you want. I'm not going to argue with you on that." But I thought it was very interesting myself, and I love doing that character.
I mean, it's a fan favorite for a good reason.
Yeah.
It's one of my
Well,
favorite episodes.
I think it became a fan favorite over time. Though as time went on later, like a lot of people in Chicago really liked that episode, and people that I met and maintain a contact with, especially on I still call it Twitter. I refuse to call it X, but
Same,
especially
same.
yeah, especially on there, I had people that I'd met in Chicago that I still kept in contact with, and the number that brought up Chingo had really grown. It had found like it found that it had more people that appreciated it than before. Its
Even
audience
though
grew.
even though it only features like one half of the dynamic duo, Mulder and Scully, like Mulder has just a few couple of scenes, it's
That's
still
true.
it's still one of like, fan favorite episodes. So it says
Well,
something
yeah, I
about the
think that's
quality of
what
it.
bugged some of the people that I used to. Well, Mulder
Ah,
was early, that was one of the things, but they wanted it that way, though.
right,
They wanted to do something a little bit different. So, his shots were always on the phone. He was
right.
phoning in. That was it. But he was still in the show. He
Yeah.
just took a lesser amount of the script, right?
I think I mean, I'm not a showrunner, but if you make like over 20 episodes a season, you have to do something different,
Yeah,
once in a while. Otherwise, it's just gonna get so old.
that's right.
So,
Yeah, that's absolutely right. And that was their last season there. It went from, I think it went 97 to 98, and then they moved back to LA. They moved to LA. So
right.
by then they were looking for things that were a little bit different. I think the follow-up show in that season, it was like, it was it the woman that came out of the computer or became a computer or something? They were starting to look for way different ideas back then, and I liked that show too because it was so different than all the others. And yeah,
Yeah,
I like that. I like when there's innovation and progression.
absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely. I mean, there are fans that are so, they're so, I don't want to say purist, but they really like the first five seasons, the format, more like darker, more horror focused,
yeah.
and then they really dislike or like the LA seasons less. I say bring it all on. I mean, bring it all on.
Hmm.
It's there's in the show like the X-Files, there's space for darker, more serious episodes, and then there's space for innovation, like a lady coming out of the computer and whatnot.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I think the doors are wide open with that. The way that it was set up, it could go in any direction, right?
Right.
Whether it was
Right.
deeper into outer space or into stranger things right here on the planet, or stranger things within your own makeup.
Yes,
Yeah, it could go
exactly.
in any of those directions.
I
I
mean,
liked it for that.
it's exactly that. I mean, I think, well, that for me is one of the reasons why I love this show so much, is because the opportunities are endless. We just don't know what's out there. I
Yeah,
mean, the truth is out there, but we don't know what the truth
still
is.
out there, I think.
Still out there.
Yeah.
Now, of the four episodes that you did, do you have a favorite in terms of what was the most fun to film?
Well, in terms of, I'll categorize it this way. In terms of overall instant appreciation, Jose Chung was the one that struck me the most because that was the second show I did for the X-Files, and all of a sudden, everybody knew me.
Right.
It was a big jump for me, and right after that, I got a part in a big feature movie with Anthony Hopkins and
Wow.
Alec Baldwin. And so suddenly it seemed like things had turned for me, and I can trace it back. I mean, I was working, don't get me wrong, I was working and
Right.
happy enough, but suddenly that was a step up. It was a new level, having been in that. And at the time, a lot of people uh, gave praise to that episode, saying that was something really different. We loved that, right?
Right. Oh,
So for those
absolutely.
reasons, I'll say that. I'll say the Jose Chung. But for entirely different reasons, I really like doing Denny Markham and Jack. Those are both to me equal. So I wouldn't want to give any of those three away. You know,
I love that answer. That you have something, you appreciate something in those characters, like they're sort of, well, they're all like they're your children. You can choose which which you like
No, that's
more.
right. Yeah, would you say that if you had three kids? You'd say, "Oh, yeah, I like that one the best." No, I like those three. Now, the reason I leave the first one out is because I consider that as kind of an introduction to the show and a smaller part, which is great. And had I not done that, I wouldn't have done those other three, probably.
Exactly.
You know,
Yeah.
but yeah, I don't include it in the same category, right?
Right. Now, do you have a favorite episode that you yourself were not in?
Oh, I got quite a few. I thought that one about the serial killer and what's that actor, old character actor, Bruckman, Sid Bruckman, is that what it was called? Sid Bruckman's
Clyde Brackman's
final.
Final Repose.
That's
Danny
it.
Boyle? Danny
Danny
Boyle, I think
Boyle.
his name was.
Now
Yes.
that episode blew me away. I just thought that was a fantastic episode. I also really liked the one about the guy who could make people do whatever he wanted with his mind. and
For
he
sure.
actually had Mulder almost blow his own brains out. Yeah,
Yes.
and he's a guy I know pretty well. That's Robert Wisden, and
Oh,
he uh, he was living in Vancouver at the time. I don't know if he still is, but I like that one a lot. And moving on into when it went back to L.A., uh, I thought the movie where they fell down in a field of mushrooms and were
yes.
slowly being eaten by the mushrooms while they had all these different senses of what was
Yeah,
going
right,
on.
right.
That was
Field
also very clever, you
field
know.
trip. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's very
yeah.
trippy. I mean,
Oh
excuse the
yeah.
pun, but
It was very interesting. Now that's only three. I'm sure if I went and got the episode guide on IMDb and started flipping through, I'd say, "Oh yeah, that was good too. That one, that one." I'm just going off the top of my head
yeah,
here, and those three still stand out. I'm sure if I look back, I'll find some others.
right.
What about you? Which ones do you like?
Oi, I mean, all of the ones that you the ones that you mentioned, they're also well, like my top 20.
Yeah.
I I mean, in season one, I guess Ice is
Oh yeah, the first one.
yeah, because in the first season, Ice, like the John Carpenter's The Thing episode,
Yes, that's right.
with the alien, and then with that you have to like there was something in the ear canal, like with that alien that takes over your
Yeah,
mind.
that's right. It would get on your
Yeah.
spinal column and
Yes, exactly. I love
okay,
that
yeah,
one.
that's what drew me to the show. That was the first one.
Oh,
I went, wow, what a great show. Yeah,
it's such a good episode, and I read that it was the first bottle episode, and the reason it was a bottle episode was because they wanted to save money, but
ah,
then the episode ended up costing them more money than an average episode because of how, because of the production quality. So it
yeah.
was a bottle episode, but it was expensive.
And well, they
That's what
had to
I've read
get
at
some
least.
shots where there was snow, right? So
Right.
snow and ice. So that's going to end up costing you something if
Right.
you're gonna
Right.
head up north for a while. Yeah.
Right. And I absolutely love season 11, and I think my favorite one is The Lost Art of Forehead Sweat. It was written by Darren Morgan, and it has sort
Yeah.
of the same surrealist quality as Jose Chang's From Outer Space. It's like
Well, he wrote
unreliable.
that.
He wrote that, like
Yeah.
unreliable narrator. You don't know what's true.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah, he is pretty clever that way. His writing is always very interesting. Yeah,
Yeah.
and the other Morgan is no slouch either, right?
Oh no, they're
Glenn
both
Morgan,
very, very talented, but
both
so
very
different.
creative guys.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, you probably get that question a lot, but I still have to ask, have you kept anything from set?
Oh, anything from set.
Hmm.
Um, Outside of scripts, you mean? I did keep some scripts. Let me see. Let me look around the room here. See the room back here?
Yes.
Uh, Geez, I did have some stuff. They wouldn't let me have that doll from
No.
Kinga, of course. That's still on display, which I understand. Um, I kept something from Jose Chung, and I can't remember what that is now. Nor do I see it in all my junk here.
I mean,
But I
there's no
probably,
pressure. There's
no,
no
I
pressure.
did. But you know what? I haven't thought about it for a little while, and even where it is now, outside of the scripts, I know where they are. But I have so much stuff in this little office, and I'm sure there are things in here, but to tell you what they are and where they are right now, I got to draw a blank.
That's fine. That's okay. I mean, as long as, that you got something,
I
I
did
mean, the
get
scripts
something.
also, that's
Yeah.
a
Oh, yeah.
lot.
The scripts are great. Yeah. I always want to hang on to those.
So have we met at FileFest, and I just have to tell this story. You budget for a certain amount of autographs, certain amount of tickets,
Yeah.
and so I think I got all of my, I think I had like a couple of tickets left, but I got all the ones that I, wanted. And then most of the guests were not there on day three, but Larry was. And I think you just came to just hang out with the fans, to just hang out with the people. Like you weren't even like you didn't have to be there on day three,
No,
but you
that's
came
right.
anyway.
Yeah.
And you were just like so kind and friendly and chatty with the fans, just like hugging everybody and posing for pictures. And then I thought, you know what? I'll do it. And so I got the picture. I got your portrait from Chenga, and I asked you to sign it, and you signed it. And then, uh, dumb me, I put the picture in the folder while the ink was still wet, and the your
Oh, no.
signature got smudged, and I was like,
Ah,
oh my God, no. And so I came over and I said, like, Larry, I am so sorry, but your signature got smudged, could you please sign the picture again? Which you did.
oh, of course.
It
Yeah.
was so sweet. And then I think I gave you candy.
Yeah, there's really good candy.
Yes, Swedish gummy mice.
Yeah, those were very tasty. Yeah, I polished those off. But yeah, I no, I would that day I signed some stuff that people didn't have the tickets. They'd used up their tickets. I said, that's okay, sure. I mean, what's the deal? It only takes me a few seconds to write my
Right,
name down, and I was happy to do that. And and yeah, I wasn't scheduled for that day, but I came in to basically to say goodbye to some people that right. I was going to
right.
leave the next day, and then I just stayed because I kept bumping into people, and it was fun. And as long as I'm having fun, I'm staying. And that
Right.
that day was a lot of fun. I stayed the whole day, as it turned out.
It was. Yeah, you stayed for the screening of the documentary, the
Yeah,
X-Files 25
yeah.
documentary. I
Yeah, well,
remember that.
Carly and Lauren, I told them I wouldn't miss their show, and I was going to go to that anyway, but
Right.
but yeah, I also went on the went in the room, and it took me a long time before I left. Somebody came up and said, "Hey, they've got a bleeping thing on the taco shop around the corner. You got to come and get your picture with that." So I did a whole bunch of pictures there. They did. They had bleeping something specials on certain bleeping tacos, right? So I stood in front of that and said, "This is bleeping great," and then people took shots. So I never did get out of there that day, but it was fun.
It was
It was
fun.
great, great
It
fun.
was fun. I mean, I bet you were tired because like I know after those 3 days, like
Yeah,
when I came home after this long flight, I just slept.
yeah.
It was a lot. But
Well, you know what else was tiring was I closed the bar down just about every one of those nights because I always to go to my room in the hotel. I always went by that bar in that hotel, and I'd look in, and sure enough, there'd be somebody I'd want to go over and say hello or goodbye or let's have a drink to, and I stayed in there for several
right.
hours.
I mean,
Yeah,
how can you not stay and
no,
just have a chat and have a drink?
no,
Now,
it was fun.
it was fun. Was that your first X-Files event, or have you done any before?
I did one in 2019 in Chicago. That's why
Ah,
I
right.
asked you about Chicago. Were you there? I didn't know. Yeah, because I was only getting to know a lot of the people on
Hmm.
that one. And I sort of did a similar thing there too. The last day, I went and hung out a little bit, and then, I met some people that it became in the conversation that I was a baseball fan. They said, "Oh well, come on, we're going to the Cubs game. Come with us." And I did. I went to a Cubs game, and that was fantastic for me. Going to Wrigley Field, and that's a that's a cathedral of baseball there, and it was brilliant of those two to take me to that game and kind of take me through that whole sports district. So I've never regretted going to these things. They're always a huge amount of fun for me.
Yeah, I mean, we were all very happy to have you at FileFest. It was just it was so much fun, and I mean, September is such a long, September might as well be like 100 years from now.
Yeah,
But
I know
I
what you
really
mean.
hope that I can make it in September and see you again in person,
That would
and
be great. Yeah,
that would be great.
yeah. I guess I didn't realize you were from Sweden. When I met you, and then also uh, your name, I didn't think I would never attach any nationality to it, but I was surprised when you just the other day said you were going to be sending me an email with this link, and it said Sweden. So is that your real name then? The other name that's on the email?
Yes, that's my legal name.
Right.
I've had it for as long as I've been in Sweden. I've been
Yeah.
meaning to change it back to my mom's maiden name, but it's such a
Yeah.
long process. So
Yeah.
I haven't done it yet. But yeah, that's my legal name, and Tangri is it's my pen name,
Oh, all
basically.
right.
All right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, it's good to
Uh,
have several names, isn't it? I mean, I have Larmundo
right?
on Facebook.
Right. Different alter egos.
Sure, I can be whoever ever I want there, right? Although too many
Exactly.
people now know that Larmundo is me.
Well, let's see. I mean, I did down a few sort of questions and a little guidelines, in case I forget anything I wanted to ask you. But
Okay.
I mean, I have uh, asked all the questions I have on my notepad. Uh, Now, if there is, I don't want to take too much of your time, but if there is like anything else about the show, filming, some memory that you want to share with us, or some just at the top of your head.
You know, uh, Along with the joy, there was a lot of dark and wet nights, so many night shots, and it was raining a lot in those days. I mean, Vancouver gets a lot of rain anyway, but it seemed like it was really pounding down for a lot of those shoots, you know, and uh, even when it was dark and wet like that and basically uncomfortable to be out there doing the shot, everybody on that crew still stayed buoyant and positive, helpful, and easy to get along with. And nobody was even even referring to the fact that it was I don't want to be out here in this. Nobody ever took that attitude, and to me that was amazing. I thought, what a crew! There's a real spirit on this crew, and I think it stands alone in that regard of all crews. The kind of togetherness, the unity, and the energy that crew always seemed to have. And every time I'd go back for doing a different character, that never changed. Never changed. So I give a big thumbs up to all those people that worked on that show, and I've met now most of the writer directors, and those are such creative people. I have nothing but the top admiration for them, and some of them are my friends. I consider them friends, and yeah, it's a great experience all around. I know why the X Files still survives is because of that kind of energy that was imbued into it, and that kind of spirit, and they managed to tell a story that was interesting on top of it, right?
Right.
Yeah.
I think that's the perfect uh, way to end this interview on this
Okay.
beautiful note.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Now you just stick around. I'll stop recording. I just want to say thank you so much for. I reached out to Larry and asked him if he wanted to be on the podcast, and he said yes. So thank you for that, and thank you for your time and for sharing the memories and the stories and your perspective with us, with the listeners and the fans. And we really appreciate. We as fans really appreciate you, and we appreciate all the people that have put so much of their own heart and soul into this show. that just keeps on bringing us joy year after year. So thank you for that.
Well, I'm going to say to wrap up, my pleasure.